So let's go ahead and light up our first LED. This requires no coding. We just want to make sure that we understand how to make a simple circuit using our breadboard and our Raspberry Pi. So what you're going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and power mine up. You can see it's powered up here with the little red light right there. And one of the things that you're going to have to become very familiar with on the Raspberry Pi is all these GPIO pins that you're going to read about on the project site and pretty much from here on out. And I have a link to a layout that you can print off as a guide, so you kind of know what's going on as well. And then I can go ahead and, if I wanted to, I could put this on. Let's see if I can get this going here the way that I would like. I don't think I'm going to be able to put that on there, unfortunately. But what we have here are these GPIO pins, general purpose input output. For the most part, the majority of these are just called GPIO, meaning that you can plug something in as an input or have something plugged in as an output. In our case, we're going to have an output of an LED light, but we could put in different sensors and different types of way to collect data as well. There are a few on here that are for our ground for a circuit, and we have a few on here that will provide 3.3 volts of power and 5 volts of power. So check the project page to see that. Look on the resource I've linked down below on the companion website so you can kind of understand the numbering and the labeling. It can be a little confusing at first, but don't let that be too confusing for you, because the more you use it, the more comfortable you're going to be. And on the GPIO pins on a lot of these, you're going to see a lot of them are numbered, different numbers. They all just mean that that's a port that's available for you to use for your GPIO pin. And so just trust the process as we go here. Our goal is to make a simple circuit. Kind of think about it with a battery. If you have your wires, you plug your battery into a flashlight, that essentially creates a circuit for your flashlight to work, or your lights in your house. When you have a light switch that can then break the circuit or turn the circuit back on. We're not going to have one with a switch yet, but what we're going to be doing is just having a circuit that, based on the power of our Raspberry Pi, will turn on an LED. So let's go ahead and get started here with this work. And the way we're going to do that, I'm going to reposition my Raspberry Pi so it fits properly here on the camera for you. There we go. Okay. And I've got my breadboard. So if I'm looking at this, I know just from experience, and you will too, that the top two GPIO pins on the right are 5 volt, and the top one on the left is 3.3 volts. And we're going to be using that here in just a minute. But the first thing we want to do is we want to get our LED light, one of them, plugged into our breadboard. And remember, we said the long leg is the anode or the positive, the short leg is the cathode or the negative. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to build a bridge across. Remember, these terminals are not connected across this divide. So I'm going to put my positive leg over here and the negative leg on the right side. And I'm just going to use row 2 for the sake of this demo. Okay. Now that I have that, I need to put a resistor in just to control the amount of power going to the LED so we don't burn out the LED at a super fast speed. It's not like these things are super expensive, but we don't want to ruin it right away. The resistor here, both sides do the exact same thing, so we don't have to worry about one leg being longer than the other. But what I'm doing is I'm just kind of properly bending the legs so they'll fit within there. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to plug one end on the side of the positive. Now remember, all the way across, these are all the same. So anywhere on this column now, I can plop that down, and I'm just going to make sure that's pushed in until I feel it kind of hit the ground, or in this case, the metal strip that's underneath. And I can pick again any row on mine. So in this case, you can see that I've got my LED in row 2 on columns E and F, and then my resistor is B2 and B8. Bingo! You knew that joke was coming. All right, now we got to get this actually connected over to a Raspberry Pi for power. So this one's going to require us to use a male to female jumper cable. Now, the colors of wires don't matter, but they matter in the sense of keeping things organized. So as much as possible, when we get more complex builds, you have to change this up. But when I'm doing simple ones, I'm going to use red for positive. Okay, so what I'm going to do here then, remember we talked about the whole row across is all connected, so I can put this in right here on A8 where the resistor leg is. And then I'm going to plug this one into the 3.3 volt. I don't want the 5 volt, so I know that's the top left one here. I'm going to plug that in just like so. So you can kind of see we're building a bridge here. We got from here, it's going over, going on this little metal strip to this leg of the resistor, and then over and down, then across to the LED. All right, actually it'd probably go the out. And then we need to loop it back to complete the circuit. Right now it's just going and dying. We got to have a charge back over here. So that one's going to require a ground wire. Okay, so what we're going to do here then is use another male to female jumper cable. And I thankfully have a black one. So I'm going to plug this in next to my LED light on the negative leg. And then I got to run this to a ground. Okay, so if I'm looking at the chart, I know that it goes 5 volt, ground. So I'm going to plug that in just like so. And now, I don't know if you can see, let me turn off the light. It automatically turned on my LED. I don't know if you can see that there. Right there's my LED. That's the light from the Raspberry Pi. All right, you can still see with the resistor. It's nice and bright. It's bright enough. And we're in good shape. If yours isn't working, check the legs of your LED. Check to make everything is plugged in all the way. And now that we know that our LED works, we know our circuit works, let's go ahead and move on to the next step where we can code and program this to actually do some things besides just stay on automatically until we power off our Raspberry Pi. So that's what we want to do. You go ahead and test that, and when you're ready, we're going to move on to the next step to code.